attempted suicide in primary school. That's not the first time, not the second time. I had issues, but I never knew what they were called. I didn't know I was depressed. I didn't know I was having anxiety. I didn't know I was having suicide ideation, but I had all those struggles. And I felt I was demonically, or something was just wrong.
Hello and welcome to HRTV. My name is Tife and I'm your host for today. And I have here with me a seasoned mental health therapist and also the operations manager for MOD Education. Ese, thank you for joining us today. I'm really glad to have you here for this session. And also I can't wait to, download and observe. I'm sure our audience are waiting to hear what you have for us today in terms of mental health challenges and how to overcome it at workplaces and all that. But before we continue, please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to our channel. And you can also click the notification button below. I want to ask you, what was the turning point for you becoming a mental health therapist? I've seen how far you've gone. I've seen the seminars, the talk shows, and I know that you do counseling a lot.
Yeah.
What was the turning point that drove you into that space?
I actually started having issues with mental health while I was in primary school. Attempted suicide in primary school. That's not the first time, not the second time. I had issues, but I never knew what they were called. I didn't know I was depressed. I didn't know I was having anxiety. I didn't know I was having suicide ideation, but I had all those struggles. And I felt I was demonically, or something was just wrong, the way we always see things as spiritual. But I knew there had to be something or some way to explain it because I was molested, I was raped. And I was like, okay, what will make everything just make sense? And I remember my elder sister bringing home her psychology textbook. She was in the University of Benin. And I read psychology for the first time and I was like, it just makes sense, And everything just clicked, And that was one of the reasons I chose to study counseling psychology. But lately, I've been diverging more into mental resilience. In 2020, during the lockdown, I realized I was getting depressed all over again. I was like, okay, I thought I've gone past this point. And I started studying more about how to actually build mental strength. That's why I now call myself a mental resilience advocate, as opposed to what people say, mental health advocates, just giving the information about mental health. I go a step further to help people build mental strength. Yeah.
That was a lot to take in.
But that's just the short version.
Yeah, I mean, I know your story.
Yeah.
I know that you're always proud to come out and push people.
Yeah.
But, I'm amazed. And I'm pretty sure our audience, right from the start, you're already giving it to us hot. So I'm pretty sure that they are, in tune to this right now. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I believe that you've already had a change of heart in some areas in your life and you have grown from that. Now, into this space, because, this is HRTV and I'm trying to take you now into the workspace, the business sector. Yeah. I know you have come across a lot of young individuals, even elderly people, of age, grown adults, but I'm going to be, specifying more on the young professionals. And I know that you've had victims, patients that you have counseled. Yeah. I would say, can you give me an overview of what you think are the major mental health challenges that these young professionals are going through nowadays, especially with what the economy is saying. But, aside that, what are the common patterns that you have seen in these people? Would you like to share the ones that you can share an overview of it?
So there are a series of issues, right? But I'll narrow it down to depression, anxiety, suicide ideation, and burnout.
So is that like PTSD?
No, PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
It's when one reacts and responds to triggers based on past traumas. So that's another one on its own, but it's not as common. A lot of people use that term, whereas not even fully aware what it means. Right? So if you experience a trigger, for example, hear a voice or someone walks up to you and you feel scared, maybe because the person has been molested or abused before, that's called PTSD, right? Or let's come back to the workspace where you've had a boss that was toxic, right? And then you see similar traits in your new place of office and you respond to that trigger, that's PTSD. But it's not always PTSD, You understand? Sometimes we self-diagnose, Africans are used to those things. Okay, just look out for the symptoms and okay, tick, 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 and that's all. And okay, let me come back to this issue of self-diagnosis. One of the major challenge of mental health awareness is the more we create awareness, the more we have people suffer from issues of mental health. Have you noticed?
Yes.
Do you think it's the facts, or don't you think we're actually building an ideology? Unconsciously, we are projecting a thought to people, right? So depression is not out of place to have when there is an issue. So one will be depressed when they have lost their jobs. You don't expect somebody to be happy when they lose their jobs. Or in the case of lose a loved one, you get depressed. It's a normal phase.
Sorry, can I get you there?
Yeah.
If someone loses their job, they're
Yes.
sad, they're angry.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like depressed is a strong word
Yeah.
to push that idea to the person. Like, okay, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm hurt, I feel down.
Yeah.
But saying I feel depressed, it depends on the level to which that job has affected me and I lost it.
Definitely.
It's not everyone that feels depressed, but I think now it's in norms, like you said.
Yeah.
Anytime something goes on with anyone, oh, I'm depressed. Or in fact, this new generation, the Gen Zs,
my mental health.
my mental health. You know, things that we overlook and we have been able to pass from our parents and, you know. How do you really tell which one of them are depressed? Because now we're talking about the kind of symptoms that you see in these younger professionals claiming mental health work. Is it really real? What kind of symptoms do they project?
So there's a theory called self-fulfilling prophecy. If I say something about myself, my brain goes into action. That is why we make New Year resolutions. That's why we write down goals. Yeah. Because there's a part of our brain that actually works out whatever we say, right? So due to that theory and that research, think about the fact that if you keep saying you're depressed, it will keep you in that space. Take it from someone that has actually been depressed, has actually attempted suicide. I'm not just saying just thinking about it. 2020 was the last time I actually tried to kill myself, right? So I'm not saying it's not real. I'm just saying if we don't build mental strength, all we're doing is just creating a space where all people see is the hopelessness of situation. So I'm not saying they are lazy either, but we're just projecting negativity. Now, 80% to 90% of the information on social media is negative. And remember, that's what we see every day. And according to research, it's seen that the first thing you do in the morning and the last thing you do at night sets your mood for the day. So think about it. When you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing you do? Check your social media. Most information there, they are not positive, right? Even if they are positive information, it gets lost on the trend. If a person has mental health challenges, it's better to see a professional, because you might have the symptoms but still be able to walk it through. So like when you see the professional.
Depression.
This is where I tend to drive back, because by the time you list out symptoms, somebody will like, okay, yes. Oh, I'm depressed, right?
Okay, just give me like 3.
But let me say we're just talking about depression. So let's talk about the fact that the person cannot shake that feeling of sadness off for a long period, and that long period, it's non-stop for two weeks or more. So
sadness is a form of mental health issue.
So when you can't shake off the feeling of sadness,
so prolonged
sadness for 2 weeks or more, and I'm not saying the person is sad today and laughing later.
Yeah,
I'm saying that feeling is still there. When you're laughing, it's still there somewhere. You're just suppressing it. It's still there. You can't just shake it off for 2 weeks or more. And sometimes, ironically, there's a kind of depression where people are functional. It's called functional depression, where you see the person laughing, joking, jesting, but they're depressed. So that's why it's not easy to just coin it as just this is what it is. It's better to see a professional and get professionally diagnosed. And when you do online tests, the problem with online tests is this: because we want to pass every test, you don't answer questions correctly. Right? So when they say, okay, I've done this online test, and they said, so sometimes the accuracy is like 50 to 60% accurate. So even if you do those tests, there are still some questions a professional will ask you and judge based on your reaction, based on your response, based on your non-verbal communication to know if what you're saying is true. Because I've seen clients tell me what they feel I want to hear. right? But when I look at them, I tell you, no, you're not telling me the truth. You're hiding something. Like, how did you know? I say, I can see that you're hiding. There are things we look out for, right? So there's something about seeing a professional. There's something about seeing a therapist to get properly diagnosed.
All right. Thank you about that. I was hoping to hear something about sleeping disorder, anyways, but I know you're really really careful of not mentioning symptoms, so people don't
sleeping disorder as
suddenly like people can't sleep.
for that sleep disorder. Diet can actually play. If when you don't exercise, you might not be able to sleep. Improper diet, and then exposure to screen lights. We look at our screens for too long. If you really want to sleep, stay away from your phone from 6-7 in the evening. Your body will shut down. The light from your phone, your brain sees it as morning light, right? That's why when you darken a room, it helps you to sleep. So I'm not saying it's not an issue, and I'm not downplaying those people that have issues with insomnia and the rest. But sometimes there are some things you can do to help yourself, like exercise, eat right, take water. You understand? Then stay away from the phone.
What would you say is beneficial for employers, for business owners, to help their staff, to help their employees in terms of, creating a space for the staffs, for their employees to be able to express their self, express their concerns in terms of their mental health, in terms of what they think, how they feel, creating that kind of space. How would you advise these people, the business owners and the employers, what kind of environment do they need to bring into this system?
So one thing is a positive work culture. A lot of what we call toxic work environment is just a negative work culture, where there's no trust, there's no transparency, lack of proper communication. So the truth is, if the employer really wants to have that safe space, they should create a positive work culture.
Like what?
So a place where they are empowered. A lot of work environment they give you tasks, and then you don't have power to do it. We've seen work environments where you don't even trust the next person because you feel you're in competition with the person. Some bosses or some companies feel when they create that space of competition, then everybody will be working harder. But that creates distrust, because I'm like, this ideology of hiding my work. I don't want you to see what I'm doing. There's no space for openness. Everybody's scared. They don't feel safe. That kind of space is not a positive work culture space, and thereby it breeds a sense of insecurity, because security is actually a proper security is actually good work culture. And when you say security, it's not that man at the gates. It's that sense of, oh, I'm safe in this space. I'm able to talk about, I'm having challenges. Like, imagine both of you, or I'm just saying that, like, both of us work in the same place and we have maybe a target to meet, and I'm having challenges and I can't talk to you because I feel if I tell you the challenges I have, you could use it against me. That kind of culture will actually breed more mental health issues. You understand? So creating a space where everybody feels safe will be best for the employee. And also, don't joke about mental health. Most employers, they tend to make jest about it. Maybe during work meetings, during events, they turn it to something they laugh about. Because if I've seen you laugh about suicide, I've seen you laugh about depression, I've seen you laugh about anxiety, if I'm suffering from that, why will I share it? And then if someone takes a break from work due to mental health issues, you are not allowed to share that fact. An employer should not share that and use it like, that one could not come to work today. He said he has mental, make jest. That's stigmatization. And that will, if someone else has issues, they will, don't want to be the one that the next person will laugh at. Ironically, most people that laugh at others tend to have their own issues. And then that makes them to hide it more, because they feel, if I now talk about it, people will now laugh at me. So it creates like a circle of insecurity, like I talked about. So creating a safe space, encouraging trainings. There's this training that I love to do most times.
Retreats.
Yes, mental health first aid. How do you, so we talk about first aid. There's mental health first aid. How do you respond to someone with mental health issues? How do you spot out the signs as in a workspace? So offering trainings like that to your staff gives them a sense of they know what to do, and when something happens, they know how to react and how to respond in a way that it will not cause more issues.
I remember in 2019, one of the company I was working for, I had a colleague that I think she traumatized me. I'm using that word a lot, but she was a stickler, right? And we always pray for her, and she laughs and plays with us. Sometimes when she comes out of a crisis and comes to work the next day, she's like, "Oh, I'm so glad that you're fine. I'm happy." And then she's like, "Oh, please, I thought I'd already gone." And I'm like, "Gone where?" She's not happy that she's back.
That's suicide ideation.
And I didn't know it was affecting me.
Most people, when they hear suicide ideation, they think it's okay, somebody buying sniper, okay, I want to kill myself. Suicide ideation is toiling or playing with the thoughts of death as an escape.
Would you say she committed suicide?
No, suicide ideation. She's thinking about death. So for her, it's better for her to think about it. Like, let me just accept that life is fleeting. You get? So she just has come to that terms with the fact that she's going to die. As a form to, will I say...
She was looking forward to it.
No, wasn't looking for it. She was defending herself. So it was better. So it was easier for her to see death than to see life, because for her, the issue of her health was already like one step to death. So it's better for me to accept it. It's inevitable. That kind of.
I'm sorry, sis, I don't agree. She was looking for it. She comes to us and is like, "I don't want to be here."
I have a friend that has the same issue. She has 2 kids. She should be 42 or so. That's the thing about... So she built a picture in her head, and self-fulfilling prophecy came to pass. Now, you talked about that feeling of that waking up. Now, when I talked about suicide ideation when I was in primary school, I remember for some years, when I sleep at night, before I go to bed, when you sleep and say, "God, let me wake up," no? I used to pray, "Let me die." I was still in primary school till I was in secondary school, because then the molestation was still happening, and so I was looking for an escape. Do you understand? The pain, you don't really understand the pain she was going through. That's why she actually needed a therapist. She needed somebody to talk to her and come to deal with a lot of things she had been through, but unfortunately she didn't get that help. Now, I remembered praying for that for years. And then when I wake up in the morning, I will cry. My mom will see me crying. This speaking all go school. That was what she would say. Yes. But that wasn't the reason. I was crying because I was like, so another day of torture. Because I heard a message. Someone said that God has written our life in a book. And I was like, God, so this book that you've written, let the book be short. So that I won't... So I didn't believe I'll live... I clocked 40 this year. I didn't believe I'll live up to 25. So as of when I was 18, I was trying to get pregnant because I was like, I'm not going to live so long. So let me just get a child now. It didn't happen. It didn't work. Is it fortunate? Yes. Unfortunately. So it happens. So that's how dark depression can be, and that's how dark.
That's like another level.
That is sure.
It's like we are living to live, and you are living to die.
Yeah. So death was. So when you hear some people say, I cannot just see myself. Don't pray to be in that kind of pain where living becomes more painful than death. Death becomes a beautiful escape.
I'm really sad that I lost my friend.
Yeah.
It wasn't like we were close.
Yeah.
But she was my colleague. In that workspace, there was no one. Work is back, right? But like, for a while, she left a stigma, right? Everyone. I mean, just imagine being in that work environment where your colleague is, and everybody's like, and then she just goes, So how do you create a space where it's so positive that you don't even have to dwell on things like that?
Group counseling, where you have a professional talk to the employees and then create a space where they share.
Is that possible?
Yeah,
like this group counseling, because I have benefits that come with our pays.
Yeah.
And counseling is not part of the benefits that come with it. So how do you incorporate it in a way that it won't be a loss for the company? You also still have to think about the earnings and the incomes and the revenues.
So I think about the price tag to it, or I don't.
Yes, because I know all this counseling costs a lot.
Yeah.
So if you're going to advise a company now, for example, to have that, how do you help them balance that?
So if they cannot afford to have like a steady therapist, they can actually subscribe. There are subscriptions that are possible, maybe maybe once a month, where everybody has that experience. But like I said, group counseling is a place where you have a professional talk and then create a space where people can talk back. Right? Okay. That's one. And then offer trainings like the mental health first aid I talked about, where everyone now knows how to respond in situations like that. Okay. And continuously have those kind of trainings to update that knowledge, because psychology is so dynamic and human beings are so amazing that the knowledge grows with time. Now, there's this test called the PEMA test. PEMA is P for positive emotions, E for engagement, R relationship, N for meaning, and A for accomplishment. Now, it was actually started by Martin Seligman, and he explained that by increasing these 5 factors, one can actually increase your rate for happiness. He did a research on happiness and flourishing, right? It's not a church. Yes. So when you hear happiness, it's like, who is this pastor? No, he's a psychologist. It's called the father of positive psychology. Now, positive engagement, increasing positive engagement among your team. So these are skills one can learn. What is positive engagement? Being optimistic. You talked about that, creating that space, right? Yes. Pessimism has been one of the reasons why people get depressed. Because when you look at what's happening in Nigeria, you're like, God. Yes. You know? Why won't one get depressed? So positive emotions, engagement, being able to get lost in a flow. So the ability of your staff to be working and not check the time. Okay. You know? Creating a space where they can get lost in the flow of work. Sometimes something as the smell of the environment, like making sure your office environment smells nice, good lighting, because light can be depressing.
And the setting.
It's
not depressing.
You understand? There are some offices you go to and you're just happy. Yeah. There's some offices you get to and like, God, I can't wait to leave this space. Create that kind of environment. So if you cannot afford to pay for therapy, there are some things you can actually do to help your employees stay in that happy state. Right? So I talked about positive emotions, engagement, R for relationship, build relationship. Create a space where your team or your employees build team relationship, team bonding, you know? And also M for meaning, find meaning. And when we talk about meaning, do philanthropic work. Do something for someone that cannot pay you back. When we talk about CSR, most people are thinking about tax, thinking about, okay, what's the need for a company? But it goes beyond that. Let your employees engage in those things that will help them to do something for someone where they don't get paid back. That gives them meaning. It gives a sense of, my life means something to someone, right? And then A, accomplishment. And that accomplishment is kind of dicey, because if I ask you what accomplishment is to you, it's different from another person. Yes. And then our sense of accomplishment is distorted with materialism because of what we see on social media. Everybody wants to dress a certain way, look a certain way. This craze about BBL right now and everything. So most people will feel more accomplished if they can achieve that. But I tell people, one thing you should do is to define success for yourself. Take a minute. Forget about what you were told success is, what you've seen success is. Define success for yourself. And tell yourself, this is what I want to do. And this is how I'm going to know that I've done what I want to do. And remove materialism from it. Because the truth is, if all your sense of accomplishment, all your sense of achievement, or your validation is based on material things, know that those things come and go. For example, let's talk about fashion. Something might be in trend today, you get it. And then you hear that tomorrow something else. Let's look at the phones coming out now. Yeah. You buy this one, and then 2 weeks later, the next one is out. You have a sense of accomplishment then. So that's not the best way to judge your achievement. So look for things more than that. Look for things that are not quantified with finance.
Now, for our audience, what would you say is the best way for you to benefit from this advice? In terms of counseling, in terms of group counseling, right? In terms of the PEMA test you mentioned, what do you think for business owners? What do you think would benefit your employees in terms of mental health resilience and alleviating any stress that they have? Would you like to go for the counseling? Would you like to do the other ideas that she has shared with us, to improve your workspace, to give a positive environment? What is it that you think that you need to change? Please like, share, and subscribe, and comment below. We would appreciate your thoughts on this. What are the signs, first signs, the signs that people see, and what would you advise our audience to be aware of?
So, for someone that is an introvert or someone that is reserved, if they become overly the opposite, like they not just start talking, start sharing, sometimes I look out for people that post too much on social media. Maybe they're just quiet for a long time, and then all of a sudden just start posting. You see a lot of posts, right? Check on them, right? And sometimes it's funny that some people that are depressed tend to laugh at every awkward and every little thing. And like, why are you laughing? What's happening? You're trying to mark something. Check, right? So, and most times, all these things are mostly symptoms the other person will see. But for you in it, you know yourself. If you're not able to engage, talked about positive engagement in part of the PEMA test for happiness. And now, if you're not able to engage in activities that normally give you joy, and just don't find the normal pleasures you see in the little things you used to like, then there's a problem, right? And sometimes even waking up in the morning can be an issue. I remember when 2020, brushing my teeth, having my bath. That was when my daughter had to step up. Some people say my daughter is mature. She's mature because her mother was going through a lot.
How do you? I'm so sorry,
yeah.
but I just have to say, how do you go through depression when you already have 3 kids at 2020? What will you think? I'm not trying to belittle what you were going through, but I'm just confused. I've known you for a very long time.
Yeah.
And 2020, I was seeing you as a superstar.
Yeah, that's
so
the thing.
I'm even wondering when this happened.
That's the funniest thing. So people tend to, imagine that year, I was actually thinking, maybe this year I'll just die. That's the year they place on my tombstone. That's just it. 1984 to 2020. And that's just it.
It was the year.
You understand? That was the year I just felt, maybe it's just time to go.
You are a singer,
yeah,
songwriter,
a
therapist, you're a mom, you're so many things. How were you thinking about death in that space?
That's the bad thing of depression. Depression doesn't make you see the good. All you see is the negative. All you see is the pain.
Your children, are they not
they were not really
motive to stay?
Remember, if you remember, I had a son before then that died, right?
Yes.
And before that, my child died. I had another pregnancy I lost. The baby fell out while I was 6 months old. Gone. Baby just fell out. I was in the hospital. I came down from the hospital bed. I wanted to pick up my phone, and the baby just fell down. So I've gone through some crazy. I've gone through some crazy stuff, right? And I have not actually resolved these things. And the truth is, remember what I said when I was younger. My only escape was suicide. So there was already a cycle.
Yeah.
Anytime I go through problems, the only escape I could see was suicide, because I did not create an alternative. See, most times we are in a state of movement, right, until an external force. So there has to be something that will change it. That's why I said, now started thinking, how do I build up my mental strength? Why do I keep falling into the same circle? So it wasn't a case of I needed to see my children. I didn't have a male child. I had a female child. I had 2 girls and a boy. My baby was just a year old when I was thinking about dying. I was like, okay, let me just die, because I don't think I don't have the energy to take care of them. I would say when one is in that kind of space where even the things that should give you joy, don't you seek for help. And this is not, I'm not saying at that point in time go and exercise. Just get a professional. Talk to someone that you know will give you the best possible care that you need at that time. Because sometimes our loved ones, in quotes, make things worse. They say things like you just said, you want to kill yourself. Can't you see your children? See, let me tell you the irony of it.
I'm so sorry.
So the more, no, I'm not there. I'm not in that space. So let me tell you where it's bad. So when you tell me that in that space, what I'm now thinking is, so something is wrong with me for me not to see the joy in my children. It makes it worse instead of better. So instead of saying, telling me that, it's better to just listen.
Yeah.
Most times when people come to me and say, okay, if I have a friend that is this, I have a friend that, what do I say to them? I say, don't say a thing. Just listen. Create a space where they can just hear. They can just speak out their mind and you just hear. And even if you're going to speak out or tell them anything back, ask them first. Give them the right and the choice to listen to your advice. So just ask, do you want me to give you any advice? Do you want me to say anything about just one? Most times they'll say, okay, are you sure? Because sometimes they are not in the space
To listen.
They just want to just share.
I want to go to the aspect of the elderly people.
Yeah.
I want to know what it feels like. What do they think? They have a lot when it comes to responsibilities. These are the employers. These are the business owners. These are the people that have taken risk in the past, overcome it, through all that phase. They must have gone through a lot. They've had families. They've had generations. Some of them are grandpas now, but they are still business owners. They are still the one making the decisions. Do you think these people hide it, or they are just they've honed it, like they are seasoned overcomers of depression, and or they're not even aware? Like, do you even have patients like that?
Okay, so for older generations, we've seen most of the things we are able to talk about now, we're not able to talk about it before. I tend to share more about myself. One of the things I suffered was identity crisis, which a lot of people are having, young people are having right now.
Yes.
But in my day, you couldn't talk about it. Are you mad? You understand? So growing up in that generation, you tend to learn to keep short. In fact, people still shut me down and say, why will you be talking about you were raped? You have children. You are married. You don't talk about these things. Forget about it. Because they feel it's like traumatic for them to hear you as an older person of their same age talking about something they can't talk about.
Yeah.
Because they feel you should be left in the dark, But the truth is, as much as possible, most of the employers or the older generations actually have issues that they've kept in the dark. And sometimes they create that toxic work environment because of those issues. If a trauma is not properly treated, it becomes like a loose end. And then when something, just any little thing happens, like this last straw that breaks the camel back. So I tell people, when you hear someone commit suicide and they give you a reason, that wasn't the reason they committed suicide. Just like when I said I was suicidal in 2020, it wasn't because of the lockdown. Yeah, there was lack of social support, I was feeling alone, but that wasn't the issue. There were underlying issues I had not dealt with, right? So if for someone of the older generation, when they tend to mask their pain, hide, one thing can happen and then everything just crumbles. So that's where it's the downside. So we know how to mask, we know how to cover up because we're trained not to speak about some things. Great thing about this generation that always speaks up and talks about whatever is happening, just share it out there, post on social media.
Yeah, always do. But thank you so much for sharing with us today. I believe that everyone that is watching right now are really grateful. It's one thing to be able to share and then help people to overcome whatever they're going through. Yeah. So thank you so much, Ese, for joining us today. I have learned so much. I hope that I would get to have you here again on this show to share more light on other stuff, But for today, we are really grateful for what you've shared with us, and it's a take home for me, a lot to learn. And I believe that our audience too, I believe that we've learned so much. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe to our channel, and please comment below, share your thoughts. If you want to know more about mental health resilience, if you want to learn more about how to help people, your colleagues in your workspace, as business owners, if you want to know more, please like, share, comment, and we will definitely reach out to you one way or the other. Don't forget to always listen and not judge your colleagues, your friends, your co-workers, your employees, your employers. When you see a situation, always be aware of yourself. Thank you for joining us today.